And you know what? Sorry for interjection at this, but
No,
it's
no, no.
quite profound, because I remember when I was doing a seminar on the problem of evil and suffering, and I was researching into cognitive science. And even in cognitive science, or amongst psychologists, what they say is, in order to deal with meaning, and you've seen this practically throughout the ages, that so in order to deal with suffering, it's how to is what kind of meaning do you attribute to that suffering. So what's interesting here is even this discussion on meaning is quite important, even for your particular question about God, Mike.
Mhm.
Because when we go through suffering, and everyone goes through suffering, and everyone has their own, objective and subjective experiences concerning suffering. And the way to deal with suffering is to first change the meaning that you attribute to suffering. So, for example, say someone has a problem with their parents. There's a domestic issue that someone suffers. So there's a range of meanings we can give that. One meaning could be, God doesn't love me. I'm in this situation and I'm trying to pray to God. I'm trying to express my dependency towards God, and He's not answering any of the questions. So that's one meaning we could attribute to that situation. Another meaning we could attribute to that situation is, this is I'm expressing my dependency on God, and through that dependency, it's strengthening me because He is giving me these experiences in order to shape the way that I am. For example, Mike, you've already come across very articulate, you've come across very polite, you've come across very empathic, you've come across very frank, you've come across very honest, you've come across like a genuine, decent person. I would argue that all those experiences you had, in some way, and you know better than I, but my hunch is in some way has shaped you. Because there's not many people that can come on an apologetic YouTube forum and start speaking the way that you speak. That shows emotional intelligence, especially for 28-year-old. Yeah, it shows empathy, it shows honesty, frankness, authenticity, which is lacking. So the meaning I'm giving to your suffering, which please allow me to do so. I don't mean to do it in a way that's arrogant, but maybe you should explore. You should stand in the possibility and try and step out of your situation and look at you, right? So it's you looking at you, thinking, let me stand in the possibility to find out what types of meaning, other than the meaning that I'm giving at the moment, because you have a particular meaning over your particular suffering, and it's led you to move away from God. Well, standing the possibility that I can give another type of meaning, because I think you're the kind of character that can do that. So here's my advice. If you explore the Quran, for example, there will be so many verses that allow you to attribute meaning to your suffering in a way that will make you fly. I promise you that. I guarantee you that for sure, okay? So all I'm saying is, few points. Number one, we can transcend suffering in a particular way. And this is even in line with cognitive science, secular cognitive science. This is not like a crazy religious bitter guy talking, yeah? So it's cognitive science. So what is the meaning I'm giving to my suffering at the moment? Step out of yourself and think, I'm going to stand in the possibility to give an alternative meaning to the suffering. And there could be a range of meanings that you can give, and they may help you. Also, I would say that if you explore the Quranic discourse, you would find statements, assertions, spiritual values in there that would help you transcend your suffering. And let me give you a few just for you to encourage you to explore further. Number one, life is a test. And God tests those who He loves, because the Prophet Muhammad, upon him be peace, said, when God loves someone, He tests them. God says He doesn't burden a soul beyond that it can bear. And you have all of these other types of narratives that when you look at people's struggles in the stories in the Quran and the meaning they gave to the suffering. For example, I'll end on this, I know I talk too much. Jacob, he was really upset. He was almost in contextual depression that his son Joseph and his other son Benjamin, Binyamin, they were lost. And he was crying so much. And he said, I only complain of my anguish to God alone. Straight after this verse, he says to his other sons looking for his lost sons, he says, Do not despair of the life-giving mercy of God, for only those who reject the truth despair of the life-giving mercy of God. So what kind of meaning can we get from this? The meaning that we can get from this is this. Complain. God is to blame, because we believe everything happens because of God, but it's in an empowering way. And then, in order for you to be empowered through this, remind people of divine mercy. And when you remind people of divine mercy, something happens to you. So there's a few things in there, and I don't want to mention this in a way to belittle your perspective or your own suffering or the meaning that you've given your suffering. I'm only doing this to encourage you to understand. Let me stand in the possibility that there could be another meaning I'm giving this suffering, and one of those meanings could be something that's so empowering to the point where I can explore a revelation, and that may be able to allow me to have the wings to transcend my suffering. And that's the only advice I can give you. I'm not a psychotherapist, but I do believe that the way to transcend suffering is through the type of meaning we give to suffering, and standing that possibility and explore that. And I think that'll be part of your journey.
I have a couple things I want to say quick, and then I'd like to end on a question for you as well. What you've said just over the last couple minutes is incredibly helpful, not only to just myself, but also I feel that it'll be helpful to a lot of other people as well. And you said you're not a counselor, but honestly, the things that you've just said sounded to me better than anything I've gotten out of the last 6 or 7 sessions with a psychotherapist. So don't sell yourself short. You're doing a great job. I actually really enjoy your charisma.